Can I ask you about the first time that you met Stan Getz and what you thought of him?
Well, first of all, I was a fan of his even before I came to the United States, where I was a young fan, a lover of jazz, and I knew who he was. I listened. I had the recordings that he did when he was with the Woody Herman band with the Four Brothers, and to me was one of the greatest tenor saxophones in the history of jazz, and I still think so. So it's not how I met him personally was probably when I was here with Dizzy Gillespie. I was his pianist, arranger, composer, and I think I did. If I'm not mistaken, I did a tour with Jazz at the Philharmonic, Norman Granz, and he was part of that troupe where we made the tours in Europe, especially in Europe, and also part of the United States. I think he was one of them, and I played with him there. Oh no, I did like him. To me, he was a wonderful, warm personality, and he also liked me. And as a matter of fact, he invited me, and I did an album with him. He asked me to do compositions and arrangements, and we were both very, very happy with each other.
Because Dizzy, because those jazz at the Philharmonic, you were doing like Koosh and a lot of like Dizzy tunes.
Yeah.
And, I am curious, at the time, I mean, really, jazz was a subculture, and if you weren't a junkie, then you really weren't trusted. And I wanted to know how you fit into that, and if Stan was in fact really just abusing a lot of hard drugs, even though he was able to get on the bandstand and play.
No, I think maybe I had a different perception. Maybe he was okay at that time. I didn't feel that he was on hard drugs. I tell you why, because there were other musicians. They were addicts. And I knew I felt their addiction. I felt the way they were behaving, the tremors, the lack of focuses, and Stan gave me a completely. I thought he was normal. At least he was normal with me. And I wrote this. I did an album for him, and I wrote a song. I always been, there were two kind of tenors. I mean, there were two kind of improvisers in modern jazz. Those who were using a lot of notes, bebop. He was bebop, yes, but he had a lyrical aspect. He was like a romantic tenor saxophone. Even from the time with Woody Herman, like when he played Early Autumn, that solo. So I wrote for him a song. I don't remember the title, but I remember the melody. I'm not
I mean, maybe was it Nighttime Street or was it Reflections?
Yeah, Reflections.
Can you talk? Let's talk about that specific. You wrote a tune for him. Let's break that down. Reflections.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That I wrote, and he loved it. And the proof is that he came with an incredible interpretation and performance. Well, we met in my house or in the studio where we did the recording. He was very. There was one. I remember now. When I'm talking to you, I remember. I remember some. He had a pianist. He had a quartet. I don't remember who was his pianist. Do you remember?
Let me think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Was he organ player or just piano player?
Who?
You said he was Hispanic, but did he play organ or did he just piano?
No, piano.
Just piano. Okay. I don't. It'll come to me. Go ahead.
So anyway, I liked the piano player so much that I asked him in front of Stan. I asked him for his telephone number because I was doing a lot of recordings as conducting, and I couldn't conduct and play the piano at the same time in a studio. So I needed pianists, and I needed pianists who with the styles that would be close to what I was thinking in terms of music interpretation. So I asked his pianist his telephone number, and Stan got a little bit upset. He thought that I was trying to steal. I said, what are you trying to do? You want to steal my pianist?
But okay, so it wasn't Chick Corea, was it?
No.
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 Do you have a year? I mean, was this Children of the World, or was it before? Was this more in the bebop? What?
Oh, Children of the World was the title of the album.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to get a year on when this took place. When you wanted to borrow.
It's the same. I think it was the same album.
As Reflections.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have to do some digging on that. Talking to Lalo Schifrin here on the Jake Feinberg Show. I mean, did you? Can you talk about the world of bebop that you? Why you fell in love with bebop? Do you think bebop is an accurate word for the music that Dizzy and Bird and Sonny Stitt and Stan were putting together? A lot of people say it might have just been new music. Maybe Dizzy wouldn't even have used the word bebop. But I'd love to. I mean, a lot of the Norman Granz stuff, I was listening to it. You are not overplaying. I mean, you are really just laying back, and maybe if someone gave you a nod, you might take a solo, but you were pretty reserved on a lot of those sessions. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the word bebop.
Bebop?
Yeah.
Well, that was before I came to the United States, and it was already established name. As a matter of fact, in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, the jazz lovers and amateurs and musicians and who play jazz at the beginning they had a club where they play free. I mean, they were playing jam sessions. They started by having a club called Hot Club because they were playing the music of Louis Armstrong, or like Louis Armstrong, or they tried to, or like Jerry Lowell Morton and the early jazz. But when the bebop came, some of these people, and that's when I came to the scene, they created a club called Bop Club. Instead of Hot Club, Bop Club. And they were doing the jam sessions, and I started to become very active. As a matter of fact, that was the beginning of my playing jazz and improvising, and I did it because I love it, and I still love it. But at that time, we were not professionals, although there was many professionals who came and joined us to play free. But that tells you, Bob, maybe they didn't want to. I'm talking about Dizzy and Charlie Parker, and they didn't want to create a snobbish kind of academic name to their style. It could have been, how are you going to call it? When you are having jazz, swing, modern jazz, they didn't have a terminology exact how to call it. So they call it bop or bebop.
Right. And do you believe Stan was a major force in the bebop movement?
I think so.
Why do you say?
Well, why? Because he was one of the major soloists who developed, within the bebop, he developed his own style. As I said, more lyrical. The sound was he was, unlike most of the tenor saxophones, were influenced by Coleman Hawkins and a very hard sound. He was influenced by Lester Young instead, and that was a softer sound, and we invited most to his lyricism. He chose that. Nobody told him what kind of sound he should get. He liked to play like that, and I think that was a different style within the school. Let's say the modern jazz school. He developed his own style, and he influenced some of the others, like in the Four Brothers, the three tenors. I think that he influenced his colleagues.
Absolutely. No, I mean, those guys had a mutual. Those guys, Al Cohn and Zoot, they all had a mutual respect for each other. Although Zoot Sims said of Stan, he's a nice bunch of guys. Can you talk about, maybe he was nice to you, but can you talk about Stan when he wasn't that nice guy, what he was like?
Excuse me. I think that we have a bad connection. Can you speak a little bit louder, please?
Of course. Zoot Sims said Stan was a nice bunch of guys. What did he mean by that?
What?
Zoot Sims said that Stan Getz was a nice bunch of guys, plural. A nice bunch of guys, meaning he had different personalities. Can you talk about seeing Stan behave differently than the way he treated you?
I really cannot comment on that because, first of all, I didn't know him that well, despite the fact that we worked together in Jazz at the Philharmonic only once or twice, and I did only one record with him. I still didn't know as well as I knew, for instance, Dizzy Gillespie, because with Dizzy I was playing every night for 3 or 4 years, every night. So I knew him very well. Stan was I wouldn't say, it was a very good relationship, and we understood each other musically, but I didn't have the opportunity to know him very, very well personally.